All right, welcome out to another episode of the Gridiron 64 podcast, the podcast where we talk football, right? South Texas slash Texas high school football. This is episode number 56, and we're going to make our predictions. It's the first football week of the 2023 schedule. And I've got one guy from my crew here. The other one could not make it. TJ Riddle is unavailable tonight, but he will be on Wednesday. He's going to make a video on the Gridiron 64 Sports Network. I believe it's a Facebook page. And he will give his predictions and he'll explain why he made those predictions. Before tonight, I do got Big T, Tony Pena. He's here with me to join the podcast. T, how you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing good. Ready to get week one of the 2023-2024 season under wrap.
Yeah, this is going to be a special one here. It's the first one. We've got 12 games here on the Gridiron 64. We do 10. We got 47 teams that we can select games. We pick 10 games, and then we pick two state games for a total of 12. And so if you've been following us, you can check it out on our Gridiron 64 Facebook page. We put up the teams that we're going to talk about. Tony and I are going to make our predictions tonight. TJ will make them on, I believe, Wednesday. And also scheduled today on the podcast, hopefully we can get him, is Taft Greyhounds athletic director, football coach Joe Rojas. Now, he was kind of busy today. He had a lot going on, but he was going to try to make the podcast. So hopefully he can still make it. I know he's busy. It's getting kind of late, and he's got a big day tomorrow. If he can't make it tonight, we'll definitely try to reach out to him and reschedule him. But should he come on, then we'll definitely kind of stop and do the interview, and then we'll get back to our prediction. So, T, if you're ready, man, let's get going. Before we do the first game, our game of the week, I do want to say that on our GT Sports, our Gridiron 64, I'm sorry, Gridiron 64 Sports Network Facebook page, we do have the games. We have polls out there. We have about 22 games. So we have the 10 games that are on our schedule, and then we have other games that we're going to talk about. And the interesting thing is, starting tomorrow, once we make our picks, we're going to get on the comment sections and we're going to go ahead and talk about if we see anything that's kind of that needs to be highlighted before now and the game on Friday. So we can come, you can conversate with us, communicate with us through the comment sections there for any one of those 22 teams. If it's one of your teams that's up there, share it over to your page, and we get more people that can kind of vote. Maybe we'll get a little debate going between the teams, a little friendly debate, which is really good. And we'll jump into, I think T, if he's got time, we'll get in there. TJ Riddell, myself, we'll get in there and we'll have a little conversation. But for right now, we're definitely going to make our picks, T. So let's go with game of the week, week number one here on the Gridiron 64 podcast. We have the Refugio Bobcats. They'll be hosting the Hitchcock. I believe it's the Bulldogs. This is going to be a good game. To Refugio, and this will be played in Refugio. And Hitchcock last year, I think, beat them like 49-12. That's what I have here, 49-12. So, this game, whether Refugio wins or loses, right? We saw them lose last year, T, and they went all the way to state anyway. And they were one game away from bringing another ring back home, another title, right? So, if they win or lose tonight, I don't think it'll defy their season. But I think if you're the Refugio Bobcats, right, you definitely want to win this game. Simply because you got beat 49-12 last year, and the last game that you played on the football field, you had a lot of turnovers. So I'm assuming this team is ready to get back. They want to make a statement. They're at home. They're playing a really good Hitchcock team. So I'll go to you first. Talk a little bit about the game, and who do you have winning this game, Hitchcock or Refugio?
Yeah. So to me, this was a shocker last year. I didn't know a whole lot about Hitchcock. Like we talked about last week. We don't cover these schools on a regular basis. So, of course, whenever we were picking last year, I picked Refugio to win and was totally stunned. I was stunned that Hitchcock beat him 49-12. Not even a close game. but for this year, it's a different year. And like you said, Refugio did go to state last year, and they played a tough game against Holly. I believe it was Holly, but ended up taking the loss. Uh, but I think Refugio's got some weapons coming back, and I think that's going to be in their favor. So for the 2023, 2024 Texas high school football season, I'm gonna go with the Refugio Bobcats for the win on this one. I think they got the fastest man in the state. They got their quarterback coming back. I think they got an edge, and I think they're gonna come off of last year's state championship loss and start off the year on with the W, especially at home.
All right, T's taking the Bobcats. I tell you, T. I was talking to TJ during the weekday, right? And one thing he said, he was kind of talking to me. He was doing some research, and I don't want to say much about what he's going to say on Wednesday. But that quarterback from Hitchcock, he's pretty good. I watched some video on these guys last year. They got some speed. Not sure exactly what they're returning back. If you look at the total yards last year, um, Refugio had 225 total yards, I believe. Hitchcock 375. So to me, we know what the Refugio's offense can do. We know the speed. We know they can throw, they can run. They got a lot of weapons. Hitchcock, I'm assuming, is the same way offensively. I think what it comes down to here is defensively. Refugio's defense, how good can they be this year in week one to contend and possibly beat Hitchcock? We'll see. I'm gonna, I want Refugio to win. They're just up north here from us. I think it's going to be a great game, but I got to go with Hitchcock, and I'll tell you why. I actually want to do good on my picks this year. I'm not going to pick from the heart. I can tell you who I want to win, but looking at it, I'm going to try to win and get every pick that I can this year. I just think Hitchcock, 49-12. I think Refugio. I can't see Refugio if they don't win this game losing 49-12 again. I think they got too many weapons, but I think Refugio's defense has to show up. But Hitchcock's going to come in with a great quarterback, I believe, and some weapons. If the defense can hold, I think Refugio will be competitive and they'll win. If that defense has trouble holding them, it's going to be a long night, I think, for Refugio. And here's the deal: I saw some of the video from last year. I believe there was some turnovers too that hurt Refugio. So if those turnovers don't happen this year, I can definitely see your pick and Refugio winning. They're at home. They're pumped. The crowd's going to be there. Probably the whole town of Refugio will be there. So everything is set for Refugio to win the game. But I just think Hitchcock is going to take it again this year. So Tony got Refugio. I got Hitchcock in game of the week here on the Gridiron 64 podcast. Now we'll go to game.
Before we go to the next game, so what you're saying is you're going for Hitchcock, but it's not going to be another blowout. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes. I think Hitchcock
cool. I just wanted to make sure I make note of that.
Yeah, I don't think they'll blow them out this year. I saw some turnovers last year in that game that I don't think Refugio will do this year. And I think both of them got weapons. That's going to be a great offensive. It's going to be, I think, to me, offensively, they've got weapons, good quarterbacks. I think it's going to come to the defense, man. And whoever can stop the other one will win this game. But I would be really shocked if it's another 49-12. I just think Refugio's a lot better than that. As we go to game two of the GI64 week one schedule, you've got the Beeville Trojans traveling to Sinton to take on the Pirates. This was a really good game last year, T. Beeville got the win 20-17. Now, when you think about Sinton, right, they have two of their players. They got hurt last year and were out the whole season. The quarterback, I think, will be coming back, who's really, really good, I believe. And then you got a defensive guy, too, that's coming back. I think it's a middle linebacker. Offensively, they got all the weapons. They got some great receiving out there. And we all know, because we've seen Sinton every year, they're really good offensively. They can throw the ball. We've seen that in the last couple of years. They can run the ball. Defensively, there'll be some new faces there, I believe. So the question is, Beeville won a 3-point game last year in Beeville. This year, they're going to Sinton. Who do you got? Do you think Beeville can get another win over Sinton, or do you see the Pirates taking this one?
Yeah. My first thought was that I think Beeville is going to win this game. That was my first thought. then I started doing my research and looking into players coming back and looking at who the playmakers were last year. And you said it all right. Sinton's still got fire. They graduated some studs, but they still got firepower coming back. And when I look at Beeville, I mean Beeville's thousand yard passing quarterback was a senior. He's gone. Uh, all the guys that carried the weight on the ground, they're all gone. Uh, Receivers that carried the weight, they're gone. They got one guy, Perez coming back, and they have actually two Perez's coming back. One's going to be a sophomore, one's going to be a senior this year. But they really didn't have another quarterback that got a lot of touches, and the guys on the ground that carried the weight on the ground are gone. So I'm going to go with Sinton this year. I think Sinton's going to take it this year.
I gotta agree with you, T. I think Sinton, I saw some 7-on-7 when I was out there in Sinton watching them, and the receivers, they had some receivers out there. They weren't even going full speed, and they were making some great catches. So I think with some of the weapons they got back offensively, this team's going to score a lot of points. Defensively, it may get a little rough here. They may get off to a slow start, but they're going to pick up in week 3 or 4. By then, they're going to get it together. If not in week 1, I think they're going to be too much for Beeville, and they're playing at home. And the one thing I say I say all the time, Troutman he finds a way to connect with these players. He's able, in the years that he's been there with Sinton, he's able to get the best out of his players in pretty much every position, and that's important. I think he's able to do that, and he'll do that this year. So I'm going to go with Sinton too. I think they'll get the win over Beeville, but last year was a good one. We shall see what happens. But both of us here are taking the Sinton Pirates to win week 1. Next game on the GI 64 schedule, we have the Calallen Wildcats traveling to GP to take on the Wildcats. This is the Battle of the Wildcats team. Last year, Calallen won this game 22-12. TJ was at this game. We talked about it here during the weekend. And TJ felt, and he told me right after that game when we talked, he said, listen, if the GP quarterback didn't get hurt, he felt like GP would have won that game over Calallen. The quarterback got hurt, I think, early on in the first half, maybe the first quarter, I'm not sure, but he felt that changed the momentum of the game, and it went to Calallen. He feels this year that it might be a little bit of a different story. I've been reading up, of course. The quarterback, they've got some weapons too defensively. They're really hyped up there in Portland defensively. Some of the linebackers that they got up there. Calallen's Calallen, T. I mean, they're Calallen. You know what I'm saying? You can talk about a quarterback graduating, a running back graduating. They're Calallen, man. They do the same thing every year. This is what I was telling TJ earlier. The way you beat Calallen, I don't care if you got a great quarterback, if you got a receiver, you got to punch him in the mouth. You got to win it at the line. That's where you got to beat them there. And if you can handle and get the upper hand there, then you give yourself a really good chance to win. So with all that being said, T, I'm going to go over to you now. Who do you have? Calallen or the Gregory-Portland Wildcats?
Okay, so uh again, this is another one of those games where, last year I actually picked GP. I picked GP to win district. I picked GP to beat Calallen, and unfortunately the quarterback did get hurt very early on in the game, and I don't know if that changed the momentum of the game. And this is what I'm saying. I don't know if it changed the momentum of the game, but what I will say is because that quarterback, it was Redden last year, because he got hurt, uh, they got a new quarterback. He was a sophomore last year, Dooms, and he ended up having a phenomenal season. He passed for 2,300 yards and 30 touchdowns. So this guy's coming back. They lose their running back bats, they lose a couple of receivers, but when you got somebody with the leadership who did it at the sophomore level, going to be a junior this year. I think that edge is going to be what they need, the leadership on the field, what they need to beat Calallen. The year before it was a close game. Last year, I think it should have been different. I think GP should have won. And this year, I think this is going to be GP's year. And I'm going to go with GP to win this game. And Calallen's coming across the bridge. So that's the other thing. Hometown crowd plays a factor.
It does, and I want to tell you about fans. So I was talking to a couple of guys that are from Portland, and I was telling them, I said, "Listen, you guys are going to be good. I was telling them defensively, the district. I mean, you guys are gonna be good. You got a good chance to win district, but you're gonna make the playoffs. Probably another deep playoff run. I mean, I'm just going over the whole thing, right?" And he said, "Listen, if we don't beat Calallen, nothing else matters. I mean, their measuring stick is this: how we play against Calallen. They really don't care if they go to the playoffs. I mean, I'm sure they do, but to them, it's like, okay, we go to the playoffs, we get second place, all that's all good. We've got to beat Calallen. That if we beat Calallen, it's going to be a great season. If they lose to Calallen, again, so they measure everything on how they play, win or lose against Calallen. So what I'll say is this: I like I said, I read, Coach Davis out there, GP, said, hey, look, some of these guys, they're seniors now. They were sophomores when they started playing, so the experience obviously is there. But to me, the way you beat Calallen, you got to punch them in the mouth. It's in the trenches, right? It's right there on the line. GP's offensive line, they have to dominate that defensive line, those linebackers from Calallen. You got to punch them in the mouth and vice versa. Because I think if you don't do that, Calallen, defensively, they're good almost every year, right? And they're going to run the ball. They do a little bit more passing. So to me, that's where GP needs to win. If they do that, they give themselves a good chance to win it with their skill players. Listen, I'm going to tell you, team, until you beat Calallen, it's hard for me to go against them. It is. It is. I think it's going to be a great game. It's at home now, so I think it's going to go down to the wire. This is going to be a game you definitely want to go see in week one. But I got to go with Calallen. It was hard for me to pick against Calallen when they haven't lost. You got to beat them before I go against them, and that hasn't happened. So I'm going to take Calallen again this year. But I'm telling you, it's going to be, they're not going to go in there and whip them. GP is going to be ready for them, and it's going to be a battle. So definitely, if you can make it out there, that's a game you want to go week one around here. It's a good one, but the Calallen Wildcats going and taking on the GP Wildcats. It's always a good one. And this week, I think it's going to be another good game. We'll go now to game 4 of the GI 64 schedule, and you have the Boerne Greyhounds traveling to Flower Bluff to take on the Hornets. Last year's game, I believe, Boerne won that game 35-32. Flower Bluff's got a junior quarterback, man, Policio. Hope I'm saying his name correctly. He's back, and he had a great year last year. Flower Bluff had a great run last year, right? They've got some weapons on the receiving side. They got some good They got some good corners. I think safeties, and the defense is good. The one thing I read up on them was their line. They lost a lot of their offensive line from last year, so they got some new guys that are going to be up there in the front protecting Policio. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I think if these two teams were playing in week 4, I might have changed my mind and taken Flower Bluff, but I just don't know how good that offensive line is going to be in week 1. And the one thing we know about Boerne every year, right, T, is they're good. They're good every year. So outside of that offensive line, I think Flower Bluff's defense is good. They got a great quarterback, and they have those receivers. Can the offensive line hold up? I'll go to you now. Who do you got? The Greyhounds or the Hornets?
Uh, well, this one was a tough one. This one was a tough one for me. You have two quarterbacks, both coming back, both passing for over 3,000 yards. And I was looking at it just to verify. I believe they were both sophomores last year. I'm just gonna double check before that. Let's see. So by Baez from Boerne, man, 3,500 yards passing, 53 TDs, two more on the ground. I mean, he's got his main guy, which might have been a brother, also Baez, graduated, but he's got a lot of guys coming back that he could throw the ball to. Man, this was a tough one. Tough, tough, tough. I thought I had my mind made up. Let's see. Last year, Boerne lost in state. Oh, but they did beat Calallen. 49-19 in the playoffs. I think I'm gonna go with Bernie. I mean, that quarterback, I mean, 53 touchdowns. I mean, that's almost unheard of. 3,500 yards passing as a sophomore. I got to go with that guy. I'm gonna put my money on him.
And remember this, they only beat Flower Bluff last year in week one, 35-32. So, I mean, Flower Bluff hung in there, and this quarterback was young, right, last year, and it was 35-32. And so he got better as the season goes. My only concern in this game is the offensive line. Flower Bluff lost, I think, four, if not, I think three or four offensive linemen. So I'm just a little concerned in week one how that's going to look. If they were playing a lesser team, I might take Flower Bluff, but they're playing a really good Bernie team in week one. I mean, your line's got to be excellent to be able to keep those guys off of that great quarterback that you have. So I'm just a little concerned about how that's going to look. I have no concern, T, over what the Flower Bluff's going to do in week four and once they get in the district, because those guys are going to be rolling, right? But I'm just in week one, I'm a little concerned, and then taking on a really good Bernie team. So that's why I went with Bernie. But the Flower Bluff's going to have a great season, and we'll just talk a little bit about that as the weeks go here on the podcast, right? The next game on the GS64 schedule, you had the Canyon Cougars taking on the CC Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial Eagles. Another close game last year. Canyon got the win 43-42 over Vets. We all saw what Vets did at the end of the season. That team just progressively got better every game. The last team, I believe, standing from South Texas last year. So I'll go to you. They at one point lost to this Canyon Cougars. They're playing, I believe, in Vets in Corpus Christi. Who do you got? Canyon, Veterans Memorial.
I'm gonna go with Veterans Memorial. Uh, I don't I, I don't really have a whole lot of reasons. I'm going with Veterans Memorial. This Canyon, this is another one of those teams that we don't talk about a lot, but we know what Veterans Memorial could do. Year after year, they have a team. Last year I didn't think they were going to do as good as they did because they graduated their a quarterback and their top receiver, and they come back and make a significant run in the playoffs. So I'm gonna put my money on Vets. I think they're gonna get it this year, and I think they're gonna come out victorious and get the win in week one.
Yeah, T, this is the one team, and I talk a lot about it off and on the podcast, right? That's really impressive to me. The way they're coached, they don't beat themselves. When you play Veterans Memorial, whether they have a lot of talent or they have an average talent, that team play, you have to beat them 4 quarters. I mean, if you're ahead by 2 touchdowns, you're not safe. Ben Bittner does a very good job with his assistants over there, preparing these guys to play. They get better every week. What you see in week one and week two, it's a whole different team in week 8 or 9. Really, I mean, these guys, they lose the first 2 games. You can't say they're out of it. It's too early in the season. You got to wait till the middle, toward the end, because what you see in week 1 and 2 is not going to be the same team you see in week 8 or 9. Very impressive team. They're always well disciplined, well coached. They play the game, right? You have to go out and beat them. They don't really beat themselves. I like Veterans Memorial in this one. They still got, I believe, the twins out there who are really going to help out this quarterback. I think there's 2 quarterbacks they're looking at. I'm not sure. I think maybe that's what I read on them, but they've lost some players, but they still got a lot coming back. I still think it's going to be a battle between Veterans and Miller for the district, like it always. It's going to be another good one. We'll talk about that later. But in this game, I think playing at home will make the difference. And they were just one point down last year with what they've got coming back. I think they're going to win this game. So I'm taking the Veterans Memorial. Now we'll go to some of the smaller schools. Our next game on the GS64, you got the San Diego Vaqueros traveling to George West to take on the Longhorns, the George West Longhorns. Last year, another close game. San Diego beat George West 27-24. T, I'll tell you this. We all know what San Diego can do out there every year. We talk about them. The Gridiron 64 loves the Vaqueros, right? But George West is coming. They made the playoffs last year. A young team, a little bit more experienced this year. They're in that tab district, I believe, that's really, really tough. But um, they barely beat George West last year with a very unexperienced team, right? They're coming back, a lot of their players, they've been more experienced. Can George West take San Diego, or are you going to stick with San Diego over George West?
Uh, Man, you make some good points looking at players returning and playmakers last year. Yeah, I have San Diego picked. I have San Diego picked right now. Uh, man, but Valerio graduating. I mean, he 1,400 yards on the air and another 1,000 yards on the ground. It's hard to pick against the guy that's putting up numbers like that. So I'm gonna have to go with San Diego. I think San Diego again. It's one of those teams that the last 3, 4, 5 years have been pretty dominant in the district that they were in. So I'm gonna go with San Diego for the win on this one over George West.
See, I'm going to tell you, I love George West. I think they're going to be in the playoffs again. They're going to be very competitive this year, but I'm with you. Until you beat San Diego, like Calallen, I got to take the Vaqueros. It's a close game. I think it's going to be another competitive game. But until you beat the Vaqueros, I got to stick with them. So I'm taking San Diego, but I'm telling you, watch out for, and I'm going to be paying attention to George West. I just have this gut instinct that they're going to win more games this year. It's a team that's up and coming. Just keep a close eye on them. They're in a tough district. We'll see how they play San Diego. But if George West gets the win over the Vaqueros, we're gonna, man, watch out for George West. Not sure if they'll do that, but that's a team I think that's on the rise. So we're gonna keep a close eye on the Longhorns. But taking San Diego like Tony is, I'm sticking with the Vaqueros. T, we'll go back up to the bigger schools now. We've got two teams not from around this area, right? First time we're going to preview these guys in the regular season, week one. South Oak Cliff Bears taking on the Duncanville Panthers. Last year, Duncanville beat South Oak Cliff 23-10. I don't think it really makes that much of a difference because I think South Oak Cliff won the state title anyway. They actually started 0-3 last year, right? And then they get on this winning streak, right? Get into the playoffs. I believe they won state last year. I believe I'm telling you that correctly. So,
Yeah, they won state.
If they lose this game, big deal, right? I mean, we know what this team can do. They were 0-3, like I said, at the start of last year. But can South Oak Cliff, just to say, right, in week one, can they beat Duncanville this year?
It was a pretty close game. And both of these teams actually both won state in their respective not districts but classifications. Both these are two state champs facing each other head to head in week one. And again, like you said, the game last year was uh only a 13-point game on Duncanville's side, and Duncanville significantly larger school. And South Oak Cliff, I think they're on a high, man. They go to state the previous year and lose, and then they come back and they win state. And they had Duncanville at their grasp. I'm gonna have to go with I'm gonna go with South Oak Cliff. I think I like what South Oak Cliff has. They got some receivers that are already 4 and 5 star recruits. I think that that's gonna be a difference maker when you got players like that, playmakers on your team. Those guys are gonna come out to show out. These guys are trying to go somewhere big and do bigger things, and I think that I'm gonna have to go with those guys.
Their first three games, probably some we're going to talk about it on the gridiron because they're tough. And that's probably what prepares them when they go in that playoff run. They go to state, right? Because their first three games are tough if you look at it. They went 0-3 last year. I'm going to stick with Duncanville. I did think it was close. I like South Oak Cliff. We're going to pay a lot of attention to them. It's one of the teams that we're going to be talking about throughout the year, right? Duncanville's not one of them. Oh, I don't think Duncanville's on the top 47, but South Oak Cliff is. So we're going to continue to talk about them and keep an eye on them, especially when they get in the district. I'm sticking with Duncanville, T. I think it'll be another good one. But you're right, South Oak Cliff. They got some talent in here. We'll see if they this year they can beat Duncanville. T's taking South Oak Cliff. I'm taking the Panthers. Next game on the GI 64, you got the Stafford Spartans traveling to Port Lavaca to take on the Sandcrabs. They really beat the Sandcrabs up last year. But look, T, here's what we'll say about Port Lavaca, right? They started out like 0-6, 0-7 or something like that last year, right? Everybody wrote them off. Then they got hot the last couple of games, went to the third round, I believe, in the playoffs. Returning a lot of those guys. They got that triple option everybody's talking about. Some defenses can't stop it. Some defenses can. I think it's going to be a different story, T, this year. I think this is a different Port Lavaca team bringing back. They were a young team last year, and they had some injuries, right? So I think Port Lavaca is going to be a different team this year than what Stafford saw last year. They're a well-coached team. We know Coach Whitaker out there. He's really good. They ended the season on a high. I think they're going to start the season on a high. They're looking to win district. They're looking to go make another deep playoff run, right? Can they beat Stafford? I'm going to tell you, I'm taking Port Lavaca. I think they're going to be better, obviously, this year than they were last year. So I'm taking them to beat Stafford. Who do you got?
You got Stafford. I mean, you got Port Lavaca.
I got Port Lavaca. I'm going out on the
Yeah,
edge. I'm going out on the edge.
well, yeah, you know that like you said, they make a playoff run and they end up losing to the team that went to state, the Boerne, right? Yeah. So anyways, I'm looking at their player stats real quick. I got Port Lavaca. I got Port Lavaca to win. I think the coach is good. They've been a running team, and they got a guy who rushed for over 1,000 yards last year as a junior. Campos. They got another sophomore, Parker, rushed for 400, and another sophomore, Salinas, rushed for 600. So they got some guys that can run the ball, and they've been a running team, for the past few years, and that's kind of what they've been uh, known for. Even though their schedule doesn't show it, they have been ending the season on a high note. The district that they're in, the last, let's say, 3 years or so, has been pretty tough. It's tough to win games in that district, so you can't hold that against a team like Port Lavaca. But I think that they're going to have a better year this year. They had a young team this year and the year before, and these guys got a little bit more experience now. They got another year under their belt on the varsity level, and I think Port Lavaca, this is going to be their year. I think they're going to get this win against Stafford. So I'm with you on that.
All right. We'll see what TJ picks on Wednesday. We'll see if he'll go with us. He'll probably go against us. Who knows, right? But definitely going to be a good game. I think Port Lavaca is going to have a better season this year, obviously, than they did last year. A team that I think is going to contend for the district title. We'll go to the next game on the Gridiron 64. This was a big one, T. When I looked at it, I said, nah, maybe not. We put them up on our poll. People are voting, getting real excited. It's being pumped. You got the Kingsville Brahmas. I think they're traveling to Robstown to take on the Pickers. This is
Yep.
going to be a really good one. Kingsville got a new coach. You've heard TJ. He's hyped up on Kingsville. Robstown on the other side, they've got a great coach, second-year coach Perry out there doing a great job. We're reading up on the assistants that he's hiring. He's trying to change that program. I think they started 3-0. Of course, they're in that tough district with Ingleside and Sinton and Orange Grove and stuff. But it's a team that's probably now headed in the right direction, right? So Kingsville, with the first-year coach now, they're pumped up there. They're hyped up there in Kingsville. But I think with the last year, it was something like 52-12, 52-10, something like that, where Robstown really put it to Kingsville. I'm not sure if Robstown will get that win big again this year. I do like what Kingsville is going to be doing out there. I think it's going to be a different team. I think they're going to make the playoffs. It's a really good coach they got out there. They got a great receiver out there, I hear. So they're going to get better every week. But are they going to be good enough to beat Robstown on Friday or Thursday when they play this week, right? Robstown beat them 52, something to like 12, something to that area. Is Kingsville gotten better in a couple of practices and over the offseason to now take and beat Robstown, a coach that's coming back from last year and is building a little strong foundation out there. So I'll ask you, who do you got? Kingsville, Robstown?
Real quick, because I didn't look into it. Kingsville's got the coach from Foul, right? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Did he bring a son?
Not sure. TJ would be the one that has been monitoring that. I'm not sure. I just know he's hyped up on
Yeah.
this coach. He can tell you
And
more
sometimes
about
that
that.
happens. The coach brings their son, and he's either a stud quarterback or a stud running back. And so I'm not sure about that, but I know Falfurrias had a decent season last year. Uh, but looking at Robstown though, just looking at Robstown and how they did last year, they ended the season 3-7, I believe. But they got a junior quarterback, will be a senior this year. Passed for 1,600 yards and only 18 touchdowns, but 16 over 1,000 yards passing is pretty good. But you got two running backs. One of them was a junior last year, and one of them was a freshman that both rushed over 500 yards. So they had a really young team. I'm not seeing any seniors on the team from that Robstown team last year. No seniors. So everybody's coming back. They had some pretty decent stats, and they're in a tough district. So I tell you what, anybody that's in Robstown district, like TJ was saying last week, they need to be worried about that because they got a squad coming back. You got a coach who's established himself. This is his second year. See what he does. I'm gonna go Robstown for the win again. I just don't think Kingsville, even with the new head coach, is gonna be able to close that gap to where they're winning. I think he'll close the gap to where it's a closer game, but I don't think they're gonna top Robstown. I'm gonna go with Robstown.
Yeah, TJ is he's hyped up on Robstown. He thinks that they're definitely heading in the right direction. I agree, they are. And this is one thing I told him, T, was I think Perry's doing a great job over there. We're gonna pay attention to Robstown, but I still think they're still a little ways off, right? I like what he's doing as far as giving his team confidence. They went 3-0. They play some teams progress on that's something you can hang your hat on. Hey, we beat this. They still need to beat a top-notch team, whether that's in non-district or in district, right? You take out an Ingleside, you take out a Sinton, you take out an Orange Grove, and now you're turning heads, right? So will he be able to do that this year? I don't know, but you definitely got to be careful with Robstown. They're definitely coming. You heard T here. You ain't got that many seniors. This team, whatever they built this year, whatever they built last year, whatever they built this year, they're coming back for another year. So at some point, yes, you got to definitely take notice of the pickers. They're going to be competitive, and maybe they'll be competitive this year. But next year is when I think I'd be really, really more concerned if I played Robstown. But we should see what happens this year when they get in the district. Ingleside still, they still got some studs out there. Sinton still got some studs, and Orange Grove still got some studs. So we'll see how they'll compete this year versus last year. That defense for Robstown last year, T, gave up a lot, but they gave 280, I think 280-point plus games, a 60-point game in district. So they're still a little far off from those teams, right, in district. And then you see what Ingleside's bringing back as far as their receivers, skill positions, and the quarterback. You see what Sinton's got offensively. I just still don't think this year that Robstown's going to be able to compete with those two teams. But, we'll see if they can beat Westoso. We'll see if they can beat Orange. I mean, they might be able to make the playoffs. But definitely a team that you got to take notice of and is coming. But T's taking Robstown. I'm taking Robstown. Next game on the GI 64, you got the TM Warriors, Tuloso-Midway Warriors traveling to Corpus, take on the Moody Trojans. T, Moody last year can only go up, right? 0-10, they can only go up from there. I think they're going to have a better season. Are they going to make the playoffs? I don't think so. I just think with Betts, Miller, the Victoria schools, Carroll on the rise, I still don't think they're going to be there. But they're going to. I'd be shocked if they go 0-10 again. Tuloso-Midway made the playoffs last year. They're in that tough district, Calallen and Alice. But that coach down there in TM, they got some returners now. Now you got Coach Castellano out there in Alice. I think that TM's going to make the playoffs again. What I look forward to TM is, can they beat Calallen or Alice? I don't know. Time will tell right when they play these teams, but I think they will get in the playoffs. They'll probably be the best third team in the district, but I like to see them get in the playoffs and win at least one playoff game and advance to the second round. So in this game, I got to go with TM. I just think they're going to be the better team. They only won something like 20-7 against Moody last year in week 1. So they didn't win by big fashion, but they did win. I'm taking TM again. I just don't think Moody's going to be able to beat Tuloso-Midway. If they do, I'd be concerned if I was Tuloso-Midway. But I'm taking the Warriors to beat Moody. Moody should be better this year. They should win more games. They should not go 0-10. I'll pass it over to you. Who do you got, Trojans
Uh,
or Warriors?
yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Warriors on this one. I just think TM, their record doesn't really show how good of a team they are. They play in a really tough district. They lost to Pleasanton in the playoffs, which Rockport saw Pleasanton last year, and actually I think that's one of the teams that they beat. And so that wasn't a very strong team to lose to in the playoffs, but they made the playoffs. Uh, Moody 0-10. I think Moody will, like you said, will win some games this year, but I don't think it's going to be this game. I'm going with Tuloso-Midway.
I just want to say before we get to our two state games, these 10 teams, these 10 games, with teams that we just previewed, you can go to the Gridiron 64 Sports Network Facebook page. The polls are up. We've got 22 total teams, I believe, but these teams are on there. So if you like one of these teams, one of these teams are yours, or you just want to vote, go down to the Gridiron 64 Sports Network Facebook page. You'll see it up there. Just kind of scroll down a little bit and you'll see all the games down there, and place your vote down there. We're going to do this every week. We've got these teams, plus we add some other teams that we really don't talk about. Some of the teams aren't even in our 47 teams, but if we think it's going to be a good game, we put it out there. We want people to vote. And then once we come on Monday and we've selected our picks, right? Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday before game time, just check out the comments. We'll be talking. I'll be adding stuff I read, stuff I see, just kind of make it a little bit more interesting. Maybe we'll catch a little debate from some of the fans out there that we're talking about the team. See if you agree with what we say. Maybe you disagree with what we say, but we're going to put it out there. We're going to put ourselves out there. We can communicate that way in the comment sections. I think T will do it. TJ will do it. I'll do it. And we can go back and forth and have good communication. But support your team. Go to the Gridiron 64 Sports Network Facebook page. The polls out there. If your team's out there, show your support and vote for your team to win. Like I said, be checking back every day, as I'll be adding some notes there on the comment sections, giving you my thoughts. T might do the same thing. TJ, we like to hear from you guys, and we can hear back from you guys. Just kind of make a little comment there on the comment section. A lot of fun. And then next week we'll come back in week 2 and we'll recap these 12 games, and then we'll preview the next 12 teams. So just wanted to put that out there. Now we got our 2 state games. T, I'll let you go ahead and I'll go ahead and do it. Game 1, the first one of the state game, you got China Spring Cougars traveling to Lorena to play the Leopards. A good game. Don't know much about them. I know a little bit more about China Spring than I do Lorena, but I know both of these teams are good. Go to the playoffs. Who do you got? China Spring, Lorena.
Okay. Uh, Man, both of these teams are really good. And I've been watching these two. They played each other in week 1 for the last year or two, and had some really close games. And that's where Lorena really popped up into my radar. They're, if you look at some of the teams they played last year and beat, uh, they played China Spring last year, who were state champs last season, and they lost by 18 points. They beat a team like Waco La Vega. You know what I mean? They went toe to toe with Franklin, who's also state champs last year. So they have a really, really, really tough schedule. They do have a lot of players coming back. Um, Man, I really want to pick Lorena to win this game. I really want the underdog because they're a smaller school. I really want them to be the winners. But I gotta stick with the state, the others, I mean the state champs, the 4A state champs in China Spring. I'm going with China Spring.
And T, China Springs defeated Lorena last year, 38-20. So it was a good game. It was a good competitive game. I mean, Lorena scored 20. They are the smaller school. I just think China Springs is going to be a little tough for them again this year. I think that's a good, though, non-district game for Lorena. It really prepares them for the season, right? You're probably not going to see too many more tougher teams than what you get from China Springs. So I think for Lorena, win or lose, right? I think it's good to play a team like that. It really helps them get prepared, especially when they get into district. But I got to stick with China Springs too. I just think they're going to be too tough, and they should get this win again this year. So both of us are taking China Springs to win. The last game on the schedule, this is a state game. We got Port Neches-Groves, the Indians, taking on Port Arthur Memorial Titans. T, who do you got?
Port Neches or Port Arthur. Now, the interesting thing about this is Port Neches actually made it to the state championship game, and that's who actually South Oak Cliff defeated in state. Port Arthur did not make state, but Port Arthur in week one last year put a whipping on Port Neches 50-15. So my head, my gut tells me to go Port Neches. I mean, Port Arthur. My gut says Port Arthur. But my head says there's no way that Port Neches makes it to state and Port Arthur doesn't, and it's gonna lose in week one this year. I think Port Neches is gonna get it this year. I'm going Port Neches in week one against over Port Arthur.
That's a good point, T. Listen, Port Neches, when I saw the score, I said, man, I just, can Port Neches come back? I thought maybe there was some injuries, T. I mean, were there some injuries? Because it is kind of like, okay, how do you get to state, and you don't even play in week one? I thought maybe some players came out after week one, some of their studs, maybe they didn't play some of their studs. I mean, I don't know how that happens, right? But I'm with you too. I think Port Neches is not that bad. They're not 50 to
50-15.
Yeah, 50 to 15. Listen, I can tell you, I don't think you're going to see a score like that this year. If Port Neches loses, I'd be really shocked if they lose again like this. So the question is, do I think they can beat Port Arthur this year? I'm going to go with you too. My gut tells me Port Arthur is going to win, and I actually have them circled on my sheet. But listening to you talk at Port Neches, and the state, something had to have happened. I just don't think they're going to lose 50 to 15 again this year. It'll be more competitive, but I'm going to go out on a limb. I want to get all my picks right. So I had Port Arthur. I'm going to change it to Port Neches. I'm probably going to regret that. Maybe, maybe not, but I'm going to go with Port Neches. You're right. They made it to state Port. And how does Port Arthur not make it? How far did they get last year, T? Do you know offhand? I mean, do you have it there on your computer screen?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now because I didn't I
I
know
mean,
they
did
didn't
this
make it
team
to
even
state.
make
I
the
know that.
playoffs?
Yeah, they made the playoffs.
I wonder how far they went. I'm gonna
They
find out.
made it to the third round. They lost to Longview in the third round.
Wow. No, I'm gonna go with Port Neches.
And they got blown out in the third. They got blown out. They played Wakeland, Frisco Wakeland, which Frisco always has good teams in week two of the playoffs, in overtime. And for the fourth overtime, they went to four overtimes and they ended up losing to Wakeland. I mean beating Wakeland. And they go at the following week, Thanksgiving week, and they lose to Longview 51-7. So uh yeah, man. That's crazy. I mean, Port Neches kind of cruised after that loss. They lose to Fort Bend Marshall in non-district play, and then they end up beating them in the fourth week of the playoffs. They end up playing Fort Bend Marshall again and beating them by a touchdown. So and then barely, and then topping Liberty Hill 42-14 in the state semis, and then barely losing by 10 points to South Oak Cliff. So, And I saw that game last year. I wasn't at that game, but I did watch it on TV, and that was a South Oak Cliff was loaded. That team's loaded. And for Port Neches to only lose by 10 points, that says something. I don't know how, because before we put this game on the schedule, I don't know how they lost so bad last year to Port Arthur. I really don't. So
I think they
you
just
know,
didn't play their studs, man. I mean, something had that's not that just something happened. Either they had injuries,
in
they
week
didn't play
one
their.
though, you think? I mean,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, how do you explain that? How do you? I mean, unless the team got better as the season went, but man, that'd be man, golly, I don't want those coaches on my. I don't want them to come down here to Rockford, man. If they were really that bad in week one, and then they end up in the state title game, man. I mean, that says a lot for those coaches, right? And but I don't think so. Port Neches is pretty good. Something had to have happened. Something possibly. They didn't. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but yeah, Port Neches obviously. It's not how you start, right? They tell you it's not how you start. It's how you finish. So this game, it's like I said with Refugio and these other teams, it doesn't really matter, right? Because you end up finishing where you need to finish, and you're one game away from winning another state title. So I'm gonna take Port Neches, though. I don't know if they're going to win. I hope they do because I'm picking them, but I don't think they're going to get beat again 50-15. I just don't think that's going to happen. So
be-
that'll
before we put this in the books, I'm thinking more and more and more. I'm gonna make a change to game 7. Uh, I'm gonna go Duncanville. I originally had South Oak Cliff, but as we passed on to the next few games, and now we're at the end, I was like, before this goes down on the books, I'm gonna make my change. I'm gonna go Duncanville. I think Duncanville's too big of a load for South Oak Cliff. I'm gonna go Duncanville on that game.
okay. So the changes can happen. So T's taking Duncanville over South Oak Cliff.
South Oak Cliff.
So yeah. So we both got Duncanville. So T, that concludes our podcast for this evening. Coach Rojas unable to make it here. I know he was busy when I talked to him. He was going to try to make it, but he had a full schedule. I know he had like decals and he had another meeting. So it was going to be tight for him. And I knew that, but he was going to try to make it. I'm thinking maybe it just got real late for him and he couldn't make it, but I'm going to try to reach out again to him. Hopefully we can get him on and bring him on, hopefully, and do a 20 or 30-minute interview. Definitely want to interview him and talk about his TAB Greyhounds. There's high expectations up there. He's got one of the best quarterbacks in the state right here in TAB. So we definitely want to get his thoughts on the season, the non-district, the district, and we definitely want to talk to him about his quarterback. And hopefully then we can get the quarterback in as well. So I'm gonna reach out to Coach Rojas T and send out an email out there, see if I can reach him. Maybe we can reschedule with him. I know these coaches, they try to come on, but sometimes they're real busy, got a full schedule. So we're gonna definitely try to get them on at another time. So this concludes week 1 of the Gridiron 64 schedule. We had a good one here. Some really good games last year. I anticipate this week, this Friday, Thursday, and Friday, there are gonna be some good ones. Myself and TJ Riddell are scheduled to be back next Monday. We'll recap week 1 and see where our picks, what we did on our picks, but we'll also preview week number 2. And I am working on bringing in another coach. I've already made contact with another coach. So we won't be able to get him on Monday. He could probably come on Wednesday, but Monday did not work for him. So we're trying to work that schedule out, see if I can bring him on. It'll be on Wednesday versus Monday. I definitely want this coach on. But I'll let you guys know, T, if we can work that Wednesday. I'm sure I can. But Monday he was unavailable for next Monday, but he said he could possibly make Wednesday. So like I said, we try to work with these coaches. We work around their schedules. They're busy. And we just appreciate them taking the time to come out for 20, 30 minutes here on the Gridiron 64 podcast and talk to us about their team. So with that being said, I'll give the final word to Tony, and then I'll finish it off. TJ Riddell was unable to be here, right? But I'm being told, he told me today that he's going to make a video. I don't know if it's going to be live or not, but he'll make a video with his picks and he'll put it on the Gridiron 64 so that we'll know who he's got in week 1. So tune into that. I think it'll be Wednesday, he said. T, any final thoughts before we call it a night?
No, I mean, yes. I'm excited about week one. This is what we've been waiting for. I picked the game. I picked some teams to win who this year who were unsuccessful last year in these same games in week one. So I'm looking forward to see how I did in my picks. But most of all, just good luck to all the coaches and players that are out there putting in the work, putting in the sweat to represent their towns and their schools. It's a big responsibility, and just good luck and be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope I don't make no coach mad right when I pick against their team. I'm really trying to win T this year. I'm really trying to do my
Hmm.
research and I'm trying to get the picks right. The one thing I'll say here is, and I'll say it again this year, I tell my guys, to not speak from the heart. They do their research, give me your picks, your honest picks, tell me who you think is going to win. We don't ever on the podcast disrespect any coaches, any programs, any players. The guys and I, we know we talk about that all the time, so we'll never do anything like that. But sometimes, they do their research and they make the best picks they think. Sometimes they may go against the team that other people may say, man, well, you're part of us and you went against us. But I ask these guys to be real and just to make their picks based on who they think is actually going to win. But outside of that, believe me, all 47 teams that we have, that we follow, plus the other ones that we put on, we have a lot of respect for the coaches. We have a lot of respect for the programs. We love Texas football, special South Texas Coastal Bend football. But we definitely love to talk. So we definitely would love to have coaches and players come on. Also, don't forget to post on the Gridiron 64 Sports Network Facebook page. There's 22 teams week one. They'll be up there until Friday game time. So you got all week to vote. Go out there, vote. Be looking in as I'll be making some comments. Team might get in there and make a couple of comments. TJ, he lives there. He'll be making comments. So definitely check us out. Communicate with us through the comment sections there on these 22 polls. But outside of that, support your team. If you see it there, support it. If your team's not there, send us an email, gtsports6464@hotmail.com. Let us know, hey, my team's not on there. I want my team on there. We'll definitely take a look at that and we'll put your team on there, man. We just want to have some fun and conversate with you people. T, thank you very much. We love the football fans, right? We're growing. Thank you all who follow the Gridiron 64 podcast. We really appreciate the loyalty, the followers, and we picked up quite a few here the last couple of weeks. So I'm excited about that. Continue to follow us here. And also, I'll say this, T, what we're starting to work on here on the Gridiron, on top of what we're doing a lot of things. We're coming out with merchandise. T, I know you saw that cap that I put out there. I put it out there on Facebook, but give me your thoughts on that cap? What do you think? It took me a while to design. I really like it. What did you think about it, honestly? You picked your thing up. I can't hear you.
My bad.
Will
No,
it look? Will it?
it was
Will it
a
look?
really it,
Will it look good on your head?
it would look good on my head. Most hats look good on my head, so yes, it would.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm trying to look for it. It was uh, you sent it on Messenger, right? There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I know because you had sent a couple of them.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, you sent the GT one is the one I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, the
Oh
G.
yeah.
Yeah, the GT's the. I'm gonna send you the final one. That I got. Joel made the logo for us, and I picked out the cap and stuff, and he made it work. He was, I mean, I'll tell you, I was talking to him over the weekend about 3 o'clock in the morning, man, and I guess he does his best work at night, but man, we were talking back and forth, putting it together. He sent it to me. Can you got this? Just back and forth, back and forth. But he does a heck of a job. Those guys down there, they know what they're doing, and they make it look. And of course, we talk back and forth what he thinks will look good. I take his advice, and so we got the right cap. I feel we got the right design, the right colors. It all looks really, really sharp, man. So it's coming out here really, really soon. They're working on that. Once it comes out, you guys get yours for free. And then we'll be putting it out there. I think people are gonna like that. Then of course the GT Sports, the gold one, it looks nice as well. But that Gridiron 64, man, it's something special. It looks really, really good. It looks sharp. It looks
Yeah.
clean. So
Yeah.
I'm really
That's a good
excited.
hat.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Definitely going to put it out here pretty soon. But on top of that, man, we got merchandise coming out, and we're also going to start now this year slowly. We're going to go to a couple of games. You're going to see, we're going to film games. We're going to get with coaches, see if we can go out there and film. We're not going to sit in the press box. We can go as a fan. We want to go out there and catch some of these games. We can come back and talk about them. So if the coaches allow us, we're going to get out there so you can catch some of these games. We'll let you know on the social media pages where we'll be at and what game we'll be recording. So if you want to watch it, some of the Gridiron 64 followers will let you know where we're going to be at. There'll be some commentating. We'll commentate the game. So this year is just a real slow start, but we're definitely working towards picking up our podcast and then going out to the games now and streaming more games. So you can see some of that this year. You can see a lot more of it next year. We're starting to purchase the equipment that we need, getting the right people in to tell us what we need, getting the right people to be able to work it and get some good audio and video for you guys. So we'll start this year. We'll have some, it's going to be a slow start, but by next year, we'll definitely pick up. So that's another thing we're going to add to what we do now here on the Gridiron, not just a podcast, interview players and coaches, but we're going to start now moving towards going out there and putting some games on the Gridiron 64 Facebook page. So something to look forward to, Tony. So I'm really excited about all of that stuff. So we got a lot of stuff going on top of that, bringing out some merchandise. So you're going to be seeing us on the podcast with some shirts now, some caps, maybe some lanyards and stuff like that. So it's nice. All that we're working behind the scenes. Our designers, we've got 3 people who do our designers. And T, I got to tell you, they're doing a heck of a job. All 3 of them. We got 3 designers. Each one of them does something different for us. Our microphones now have those flags, GT Sports. You took a look at that. So when we get up there and interview, man, you got that nice green color out there. It's going to look really, really nice. So a lot of stuff that we're doing here on our sports networks here on GT Sports, and hopefully we can continue to go down that route. So T, thank you very much. I know you had a long day coming back from College Station, dropping off your son and Aggie. So I know you've had a long, long week. So thank you for coming on. Just got home and jumped right on and got in here with me, man. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time, man. And we'll see you guys next Monday back here on the Gridiron 64 podcast. This podcast will be uploaded. You can watch it Tuesday morning, tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Until then, T, thank you very much, man. You already voted, so I know I saw you out there. And if I don't talk to you the rest of the week, man, I'll see you on Monday.
Yes, sir. Take it easy, man.
Peace.